Kia ora, this is Chris with Earth Sciences New Zealand. More wind, more active weather. What about school holidays? Can we get some nice weather, at least for a good part of the country? We have all the answers. Well, at least we hope so. Hey, let's get to it. This is 24th of September, recording this on Wednesday, the 24th of September, in the midst of school holidays. How are we looking? Let's kick things off tomorrow. Well, I say tomorrow, but Thursday, 6 o'clock in the morning. We still have some gusty wind. Look at the southern Alps where you see this red that I'm pointing to. This is where wind gusts may approach or exceed 100 kilometers per hour. Not much of a breeze for much of the North Island, at least early in the morning, but certainly zooming into the South Island, you can see some pretty strong winds. This will be about the Canterbury High Country, so it won't be everyone. A little breezy in Wellington and a bit of a breeze, it looks like, in the Eastern Bay of Plenty. Let's see how the day unfolds as we progress this, and you can see that red or that strong wind moves north with time. So if you're watching this in Wellington, or maybe your travel plans take you to Wellington or the lower North Island on a Thursday afternoon, expect some pretty gusty northwest winds. Zooming in, you can see winds will be, look, for Wellingtonians, this is hardly even worthy of a breeze. But you can see winds will be gusty 55, 65 Ks in the lower North Island. A bit of a breeze for the upper North Island, including the Waikato and Auckland region. You can see winds gusting upwards of 50, even 60 Ks in Northland. So it'll be a breezy afternoon, and that breeze will continue farther, again, across the South Island. Look at this. This is a southerly change. You can see it quite nicely. This right here, you can see that is the leading edge to some cooler air. That is a great definition of southerly change. Well, have a look at this. What I'm going to do is throw on temperature and watch what happens with that southerly change. Can I nerd out here? Of course I can, just for a second. So you can see here we are, 11:30 in the morning, or just about. Let me zoom into the eastern Canterbury Christchurch area. Oop, we don't want that. Let's get rid of that. And you can see that temperatures 16, maybe 17 degrees. Look at that. We go from 11:30, 17 to 1:30, 11. So dropping over a couple hours, 6, 7 degrees or thereabouts. There is that southerly change. You can see how the wind shift eats away at those milder temperatures. So a bit of colder air coming in. For the North Island, if you want to get outside, again, school holidays in mind, parents, you want to get the kids outside. It should be decent weather in Hawke's Bay. Temperatures could approach 20 degrees, Napier and Hastings. In terms of rainfall, let's have a look. Can we expect any rain on Thursday? For the most part, look, there will be some morning rain for the Coromandel, for the eastern portion of the North Island, Tairāwhiti, Gisborne, maybe parts of northern Hawke's Bay especially, but that goes away. Showers perhaps over toward the Taranaki region, and we do see an area of showers right here I'm pointing to Thursday afternoon. This will move across the Auckland area, it looks like, sometime during the afternoon, probably mid to late afternoon. There you can see. So, look, if you have plans in the Auckland area, expect the threat of showers. They're going to be scattered. Notice we don't see rain everywhere, so some places may escape the day dry, but at least the threat of showers mid to late afternoon on Thursday from Northland all the way down to King Country, the Manawatu, and over toward the South Island. We're going to be dealing with snow early on Thursday morning. That's snow moving with that southerly change, with that front. That snow does ease during the late morning and afternoon hours, but that'll fall chiefly above 900 meters or so. Let's jump ahead to, that was Thursday. Let's go ahead to Friday. How are things looking Friday? Well, early in the morning, yet another front. This will bring rain and snow for the South Island, snow over higher elevations, rain along the West Coast. Should be a decent day, at least a decent start to the day on Friday for much of the North Island. I mentioned wind. Again, more wind. I mean, look at this. I know it's spring, and we do tend to find those gusty winds during the spring season, especially September, and we're certainly living up to that reputation. But have a look at what things will be shaping up to be. Look, if you got travel plans into Canterbury, this is early on Friday morning. Now, let's really get up close and personal here. So here we go. Here is Darfield and Ashburton. You can see Christchurch proper, probably not going to find any very strong winds, at least not at 6 a.m. on Friday. You can see winds east, maybe southeast, not much, gusting, maybe 20 K you can see, or the plinth. But if you go to Darfield, winds go northwest, and we can see 100K wind gusts. And look, that is not a big separation between the two locations, Christchurch and Darfield. But the high country of Canterbury, early on Friday morning up to maybe just west of Amberley toward Culverden, you could see some strong wind gusts approaching or exceeding 100 kilometers per hour. So keep that in mind for travel plans. If you are traveling through the high country or simply live there, could be some strong winds. I'm not expecting any widespread damage. Certainly Met Service will stay on top of this. And if there are any watches or warnings for wind late Thursday night, early on Friday morning, backing that up just a little bit, you can see the wind starts to crank up after midnight Friday. So in the wee hours of Friday morning, Met Service will certainly have us covered. What can we expect for Friday as a whole? So we go to a different model, or an NZ Land, we call it, limited area model. Right, so let's back things up. Do we have a good day for the kids in school holidays on Friday, or for the big kids, the parents? So with that wind, the reason we have the wind, we have yet another front. Can I go to my telestrator? Yes, I can. So here is the front. We can know that. We can see that because you can see the showers, the blue lined up, and we have a kink in the isobars. That's the spaghetti lines, or these thin lines, equal lines of pressure. So when those lines are close together, that tends to tell us there's a lot of wind. And when we see a bit of a pattern or a bit of a kink in them, that oftentimes indicates a front. And that's what we have. So that'll be causing the wind and some unsettled weather for the South Island Friday morning. Let's see what happens with that rain. Does it move north? It sure does. So if you're watching this in the lower North Island, Taranaki, you can see there will be the threat of showers. So if you have plans on Friday, maybe you want to get outdoors, I would do it in the morning, western and lower North Island. For places, as you move farther north, places like the Waikato and the Auckland region, I expect a threat of showers to come in probably sometime mid-afternoon in the Waikato, particularly western Waikato, and probably closer to the 5 o'clock rush hour time for the Auckland area, Coromandel, Bay of Plenty. And notice those showers really do fall apart. I mean, you can see it's a nice area of blue here, indicating lighter, maybe some moderate showers. But as we get into the evening hours, that really does fall apart. Now, for the South Island, you can see much of the day on Friday, there's the rain and elevation snow, and that may persist. So the west coast area of the South Island probably going to see more persistent type rain, falling as snow chiefly near and above 800 meters, I'd say. And then for the eastern South Island, probably not much in the way of rain, apart from maybe some midday or mid-afternoon showers, I should say, for places like eastern Otago and Dunedin, maybe even a period of heavy showers. You can see, just giving Dunedin a bit of love right about now, we do see it could be a heavy shower perhaps early mid-afternoon on Friday. We'll see if that materializes. Again, we are recording this in the afternoon hours of Wednesday on the 24th of September. What happens with that wind? Well, it does reach the Wellington area. Look at that. So this is, we talked about the strong wind Friday right there. You can see that early in the morning. And then that does get into Wellington. So if you have travel plans, perhaps maybe a flight going in and out of Wellington later in the morning, early in the afternoon, look, we could see wind gusts. Let's get rid of that. Wind gusts could be approaching or exceeding 100K. So where you see the red, those are 100K wind gusts being forecast by the model. Of course, the Tataruas, but also in and around the Wellington area. So it looks like a proper windy day, at least for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours in the Wellington region, lower North Island, for the day on Friday. Temperatures should be actually pretty warm ahead of that front. Look at these temperatures, relatively speaking. So it does rebound in places like eastern Canterbury. But look, much of the lower South Island temperatures, this is 1 in the afternoon, 5, 6, 7 degrees. My gosh, no thank you. I love the South Island, but I don't like those temperatures. Christchurch rebounding after that cool southerly change moves through on Thursday. We get back into the middle teens. Looks like Hawke's Bay could be near or above 20. So look, just between us, no one else is watching, right? I could see low 20s in Hawke's Bay, Napier, and Hastings for the day on Friday. What a way to end the week. That would be nice. Maybe knock off early and enjoy yourself a beverage Friday afternoon or evening. And look, over toward Northland, 17, 18 degrees. So it's going to be a milder day. Before that rain moves in, those showers move in on Friday for the upper North Island. It should be actually a pretty palatable day. But again, those showers come in mid-afternoon to late afternoon for the day on Friday. What about the weekend? Right, which I think it's the last weekend of of September, because this is the third. No. Okay, I had my dates mixed up. So Saturday is the 27th. So, yeah, the last weekend of September. How did that happen? Well, how is it shaping up? What do we see? High to the north. There's a low to the south. They act like cogs. What do you mean they act like cogs, Chris? Well, air goes clockwise around high pressure, anti-clockwise. So that's the northern hemisphere. So let's try that again. Ready? Air goes anti-clockwise or counterclockwise around high pressure. Low pressure goes clockwise. So the two work together like cogs to produce this westerly flow of air. That's what we're seeing. And because of that, we're going to see some pretty strong winds with a high to the north, low pressure to the south. It's like putting your thumb over that garden hose, right? Yeah. When you're a kid, or if you're an adult, like a father like me, you like to squirt the kids, you put your thumb over half the garden hose and the water squirts out faster, doesn't it? Well, you're decreasing that area for the fluid to move through. So as a consequence, that fluid has to accelerate. In this case, with the hose analogy, it's water, but in the atmosphere, the fluid is, well, the air, the atmosphere. So what can we expect on Saturday? Well, rain, could be some heavy rain along the west of the South Island. There you can see snow over higher elevations. And look, yeah, northwest winds. And some of that is red. Let's check our ensemble modeling. Can we expect any strong wind gusts into the weekend? I think we can. So here we go. Here we go. So odds for, we'll go to wind gusts. Let's clean that up. We're going to start off with odds at 100K. And so let's go to Thursday. As expected, the higher elevations of the South Island. So just to refresh your memory, we have some, we have medium, and we have high probability or chances to exceed 100K at least once over a 24-hour period, midnight to midnight. Friday, you can see that, look at that. So Christchurch should be okay. Again, these are exceeding 100K wind gusts. But as you get farther inland, zooming in, you can see, remember we talked about Darfield and Rangiora and Amberley and Culverden? Yeah, there is a higher probability, anywhere from some to medium. So where that orange line is, that's a medium probability. And then on Saturday, you can see how that kind of expands. And that continues in Sunday. So look, the wind is still going to be a factor, particularly for the high country of Canterbury and the higher elevations of Otago and up to, let's say, the higher elevations around Kaikoura. So expect wind to be just a factor right through the weekend. What about the North Island? Well, not much of a factor, but still, as we discussed, Wellington over toward the lower North Island, especially about the Tataruas, which is right here. You can see that quite nicely. On Saturday and Sunday, well, mainly Saturday and Friday and Saturday, you can see there is some to medium chances. So odds would maybe favor it, but it's a non-zero chance for wind gusts to exceed 100K. And if we lower that threshold, see what I did there? I lowered it to 70K right here. You can see the much higher chance. So you can count on 70K wind gusts or higher Friday and Saturday for much of the lower North Island and a good chunk of the South Island, but the strongest winds over higher terrain and over the Canterbury High Country, which reminds me, putting on my fire and emergency hat. Just be smart if you're going to be outside with fire. Obey any local fire bans or any fire policies. Check before you light. Check it's all right before you light. That's the website you want to leverage. Right. So that's the wind. We know it's going to be basically a breezy to windy weekend across especially the South Island and to a lesser extent the North Island, in particular the lower North Island. So there's Saturday and there's Sunday. So still dealing with, at first we got northwest winds. You can see how the arrows are flowing from the northwest. So that's a warm wind direction. Get a load of this. This is going to be something else. If you like warm temperatures, I'm talking to you, eastern part of both islands. Let's start on Sunday. So with those northwest winds, that's a Fern wind. Boy, Christchurch, if you want to get the kids outside, you want to go to the park, look at that. Now, it'll be breezy. We talked about the wind, so maybe even windy. But if you can kind of deal with that, I can hook you up with some pretty warm temperatures around maybe exceeding 20 degrees for eastern portions of the South Island, Canterbury especially. And what about the North Island? Yeah, look at this. Lower 20s. This is a global model. We've talked about this before. Global models, they're not as detailed, so they don't quite get the local terrain as well as a high-res model, and that really does have an impact as to where the highest temperatures may occur. So, again, just between us here, no one else, right? Just me and you here. I could see on Sunday in Hawke's Bay 23, 24 degrees, maybe even higher. That is a distinct possibility. We have the airflow, not overly strong, but it's a west to northwest. That's ideal. And over toward the Bay of Plenty, you guys, Tauranga, again, over toward Opotiki and Whakatane, could see temperatures easily in lower 20s. Look at this, Northland, 20 plus, Auckland, near and above 20. So if you want to get outside, I think Sunday is your day. Saturday, not a bad day, but you see that? There's going to be some showers floating by. It won't rain all day across the North Island. But, you know, you're just going to have to deal with that threat. But on Sunday, that's gone. Look at that. We have more in the way of sunshine, more in the way of warmer temperatures. And on Sunday, I reckon we could easily be 20 degrees in the Auckland area. And for eastern Northland, the Coromandel, Bay of Plenty, Hawke's Bay, it's lower 20s. Game on. Thankfully, spring, right? It'll feel like it. Okay, what about Monday? Well, we got more for you. Monday, school holidays. Get outside. Lower 20s, Auckland, maybe even parts of the Waikato, Northland. And what about over toward Hawke's Bay? Lower, and again, just between you and me, maybe 23, 24 degrees. Let's check our wind. Oh, look, I think there's a pretty good chance on Monday we could see temperatures maybe approaching 24, 25 in the favored warm areas of Hawke's Bay. I mean, we have a northwest wind that is an ideal wind direction, that Fern wind. We have a warm air mass. Again, we're looking at temperatures at 850, so about 1,600 meters up. This is pretty nice because it gives us an idea of what kind of, here we go, I'll put the 850 temperatures up, what kind of air mass we're dealing with. And you can plainly see, folks, I mean, look at this. The air, let me just spin around here. The air is coming from Aussie. I mean, look at the air coming right from Australia into New Zealand. That is an ideal setup for warm temperatures any time of the year, but especially when you get into the warm season, that's when you can find temperatures really starting to respond to that. And you can see this is a southerly change. So we have northwest winds, but behind it, oh boy, a big drop in temperature coming for Tuesday of next week. So, look, school holidays, Sunday, Monday for the North Island. I think you're looking pretty darn nice. Let's clean that up and get rid of that. And let's just make sure, though, can we expect any rain on Sunday and Monday? Well, we said Sunday was going to be dry for much of the North Island. Let me just back up a little bit. Yeah, Sunday for the South Island. On the western South Island, look, you've been used to the rain. Unfortunately, that's not going to change anything dramatically over the next several days. Eastern South Island will likely stay largely dry. Monday, there is the front. You can see it quite nicely right here. Remember we talked about kinks in the isobars? Well, you can see it right there. I'll put it on for you. This is the southerly change. We have rain lined up with it, and you can see the isobars lined up like so. That is a south wind. And if you don't believe me, there you can see it. There you can see the southerly change quite nicely there. So Monday will be a day of change for the South Island, late Monday, I should say, and that change moves into the North Island on Tuesday, and that'll be announced with gusty wind, that southerly change, and a drop in temperature. And here we are on Tuesday. Did I say Sunday or Monday? I meant to say Monday night. That change will arrive into Tuesday for the North Island. So Tuesday, a much cooler day. Probably some morning showers, but certainly the big story on Tuesday, you can see that. Boy, look at that. That air is, holy smokes. That air is coming from the high latitudes. Here, let's get this up there. Can I get that on there? My little cursor, there it is. I got to have that. Coming from the depths of the Southern Ocean. It's going to get chilly on Tuesday. So this is spring, man. Look. Warm temperatures, then cold up and down, roller coaster style. And just putting a bow on what can we expect for the rest of school holidays. Well, let's back things up. So the rest of the week, I think after that cold front moves north, Monday night, South Island, Tuesday, early morning, North Island, these things will change the timing. We are recording this, as I say, on the 24th of September. So, the timing always subject to change several days out. But I think, broadly speaking, I think decent weather on Tuesday and Wednesday. So those are days to get outside and enjoy the outdoors. As we get to Thursday and Friday, we got another low brewing. The Tasman Sea and Southern Ocean is forecast to become more active again. And look at this. Once again, high pressure to the north, low pressure to the south. You know what that means? Wind. So late next week, around the 2nd of October, the 3rd of October, I do think we'll be moving toward a more active period once again with wind and rain and elevation snow. You can see those isobars pretty packed on that first weekend of October. So my message is you definitely have opportunities over the next few days. I think Sunday and Monday. The dry areas are going to be eastern parts of both islands. That's where the best chance for dry weather overall will be over the next several days. I think you have the best chance to enjoy outdoor weather over the next, for the second week of school holidays, along with those warmer temperatures. Big cool down coming as we work in for Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, but at least dry weather Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, and turning active as we wind down school holidays Thursday and Friday. That would be on the 2nd and 3rd of October. Wow, I just talked a lot. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hey, if you have any comments or questions, put them in the chat or in the comment section. We certainly do our best to answer them. In the meantime, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. I'm Chris Brandolino with Earth Sciences New Zealand. Namahi Nui.